Mythical creatures that turned out to be real. Folktales are fun to hear about, but sometimes fictional stories are based on truth. Here are some creatures from mythology that turned out to be real. The sea unicorn. In this day and age, most people are aware that the narwhal is a real animal. However, during the Middle Ages to the Renaissance, the existence of the narwhal wasn't common knowledge. Those who only heard of a horned creature that lived in the sea referred to it as the sea unicorn. Vikings often hunted narwhals for their tusks and would sell these items without saying exactly where they came from. It wasn't until 1577, after English explorer Martin Frobisher led an expedition to northern Canada, was the narwhal officially discovered. It took people nearly 200 years after that to officially describe the narwhal in scientific texts. Interesting fact, the narwhal's tusk doesn't come out of its head like a unicorn. Instead, this large tusk protrudes from the narwhal's canine tooth. You can find this legendary toothed whale in its native waters near Russia, Canada, and Greenland. The Manatee Mermaid. Yes, mermaids are real. Kind of. No, mermaids are not half human. For a long time, sailors caught glimpses of manatees or sea cows in the water and mistook them for legendary mermaids. If you were up in a ship and didn't have the binocular technology we have today, then you would probably make some mistakes too. The manatee's arm-like fins, long bodies, and large eyes appeared human-like from afar. On Christopher Columbus's 1492 voyage, he reported seeing a mermaid in the ocean. That report ended up being one of the first written records of manatees living in North America. Manatees live as far as the Amazon, to the West Indies, and Africa. Perhaps the manatee doesn't look a thing like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, but look at that friendly face and tell us that doesn't warm your heart. The Komodo Dragon. Until the early 20th century, the existence of the Komodo Dragon was all talk. At least to Westerners. Would you believe that a lizard could grow 10 feet or 3 meters long and weigh 150 pounds or 70 kilograms? Lots of people didn't. In 2010, a Dutch colonial officer took matters into his own hands and went on an expedition to Indonesia's Komodo Island to find this prehistoric reptile. He sent the remains of a Komodo dragon to the Zoological Museum and Botanical Garden in Bogor, Java. Fast forward to 1926 when an American explorer, W. Douglas Burgin, and his team retrieved 2 live specimens to bring to New York City. The Cyclops Elephant. In the times of the ancient Greeks, humans discovered animal skulls with a single eye socket that was the size of a fist. The ancient Greeks thought these skulls must have belonged to the Cyclops, a creature from their culture's mythology. While those skulls were real, Cyclopes were not. If the heads didn't belong to giant humanoids with one eye, where did these bones originate from? The answer points to an ancient elephant that experts name the Dinotherium giganteum, a name that roughly translates to big bad beast. This mammal grew 15 feet or 4.6 meters tall, with tusks that measured 4.5 feet or 1.3 meters long. Paleontologists discovered the fossils of the Dinotherium in the South Aegean Sea, including on the Greek island of Crete. Giant squid. Many old cultures have their versions of sea monsters. In Norse mythology, there was the Kraken. In Greek mythology, there was the sea goddess Scylla, who had 6 heads. Most likely, these sea dwellers were fantastical ideas of the non-fictional giant squid. Japetus Steenstrup, a Norwegian naturalist, described the giant squid in 1853 after centuries of rumors that such an animal exists. The squids you're used to seeing on a dinner plate measure to an inch or so after being cooked. The male giant squid measures 33 feet or 10 meters long, while the female giant squid measures 43 feet or 13 meters long. There have been reports of squids measuring 66 feet or 20 meters long, although those were not scientifically documented. The Spotbellied Eagle Owl. In Sri Lankan folklore, there is a cryptid bird that serves as a dark omen. The devil bird, or the ulama, releases blood-curdling screams that sound like a human screams and travels through the jungles at night. There are a few theories behind this legend. One is that the Ceylon Highland nightjar, which is known to have a loud cry, is the basis of this creature. Then there's a spot-bellied eagle owl, seen here. Villagers found a specimen of the eagle owl in 2001. Natives who say they've heard the real ulama's cry say that this is the bird they saw flying as it shrieked. The spot-bellied eagle owl inhabits the forests of the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. It is considered a large species of owl and grows 26 inches or 65 centimeters at the most, making it the 6th longest owl on the planet. The Golden Turtle God. Vietnamese mythology speaks of a giant turtle with a golden shell. The story started with Le Loi, the founder of the Le dynasty and a former emperor of Vietnam. Le Loi said that the golden turtle god, Kim Quy, gifted him a sword named Heaven's Will. Le Loi later claimed that he was boating on a lake when the golden turtle god surfaced from the water and asked for the sword back. We don't know about the truth of that story, but Le Loi might have taken inspiration from seeing a Yangtze softshell turtle. As its name suggests, this turtle lives in the Yangtze River that flows through China, but the turtle also inhabits lakes in Vietnam. Gorillas. Live gorillas were not officially documented until the late 19th century. That's a long time to not know beasts like this exist. Up until then, most people only heard of gorillas, while those that cited them considered these giant apes to be humanoid monsters. Prior to Robert von Berenge's 1902 discovery, the existence of the eastern gorilla subspecies, Gorilla berengei, was considered a myth. Gorillas are ground-dwelling herbivorous apes, but just because they exclusively eat plants doesn't mean they're not dangerous. Check out those biceps! Gorillas are very strong, and whether they consider you a threat or they get curious, it's easy to get snatched up and thrown around by one of these guys. Okapi. The okapi might look like a strange zebra, but they are more closely related to the giraffe. Some people even refer to them as the forest giraffe or the zebra giraffe. The okapi might not look that big from this photo, but the tallest okapis measure 5.6 feet or 1.7 meters at the shoulder. They're not as tall as giraffes, but they're not tiny either. They are quite rare to find in the wild and are classified as an endangered species. In Africa, the indigenous population has long known about such an unusual animal. However, even back then, the okapis eluded humans and often would remain hidden. To the Europeans who heard from locals about the okapi, they thought it was a made-up creature. They even dubbed it the African unicorn. Sir Harry Johnston found an okapi skeleton and brought it back to England in 1901. Finally, Europeans got their confirmations that the okapi was real. The Mighty Rhino. The idea of the unicorn seemed to come from several animals. A modern one we're more familiar with is the rhino. Yep, that's right. People used to think that rhinos were the stag-like unicorns of fairy tales. We may have Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder to thank for that mix-up. In the 1st century AD, Pliny described an animal he came across in ancient India that he called a Monoceros, or a unicorn. He detailed the appearance of a stag that had the feet of an elephant, a boar's tail, and one black horn from its head. A few species of rhinos do reside in South Asia, so Pliny most likely saw a rhino. The Bondagezu. This tree kangaroo is endemic to New Guinea Island in Indonesia. Dingiso means the forbidden animal in the Moni language. In Moni culture, the ancestral spirit known as the Bondagezu is said to look like a short man with black and white fur, with a white belly and black arms. See the connection? Plus, the Dingiso maintains a bipedal stance, which is why it could look like a small human standing. The Dingiso was not photographed until the 1980s, and scientists didn't fully look into this animal until the mid-90s. Are dolphins serpents? When you think of a scary sea serpent, do you think of a dolphin? We're gonna take a wild guess and say no. However, because of the poor visibility at sea before advanced technology, it makes sense that sea travelers in previous centuries saw schools of dolphins in the distance and thought it was one big monster. Dolphins, porpoises, and seals often jump or peek over the water when they swim. From far away, it could appear similar to a long snake undulating over and under the surface of the ocean. The real sea serpent. The oceans of the world are vast and mysterious. While catching sight of schools of dolphins is a likely explanation for lore about sea monsters, that doesn't mean there aren't other explanations. Another possible reason so many sailors in history recount seeing sea serpents is that perhaps they saw the oarfish. Technically, it's the closest thing in the sea to a giant serpent. The oarfish grows 36 feet or 11 meters long, although there have been unconfirmed reports of some oarfish reaching 56 feet or 17 meters. And this fish is the longest bony fish alive. Compared to their faces, their eyes are enormous, and its dorsal fin runs along its entire body. Cuvier's beaked whale. Cuvier's beaked whale is part of the Ziphius genus. According to medieval fairy tales, a water owl named Ziphius would attack ships that sailed in the northern seas of Europe. Ziphius had the head of an owl and the body of a fish, its name Latin for sword-like. It used its sword face to demolish ships and cut through them like a sword. The nautical cryptid may have been really referencing Cuvier's beaked whale. Sometimes called the goose-beaked whale for its pointed face that resembles a bird, this whale was first described by notable French anatomist Georges Cuvier in 1823. Cuvier's beaked whale live in waters 3,000 feet or 1,000 meters deep and have the most widely distributed population of all the beaked whales. The non-hybrid hybrid. European naturalists could not believe what they saw when they first laid eyes on the platypus. They were sure it was a hoax, that someone must have stitched two animals together. Zoologist George Shaw concluded that the platypus wasn't real, a statement published in the science journal in Nature's Miscellany in 1799. Its body and tail resemble that of a beaver's. Its beak and webbed feet similar to a duck's, earning it the full name of the duck-billed platypus. We're almost at number 1. Before we tell you what animal it is, we have a question for you. What are some crazy stories you've heard before that you couldn't believe were real? Let us know in the comments below. A real Yeti. It's the cold weather version of the simian cryptid, Bigfoot. The Yeti is said to wander the freezing Himalayan mountains, its fur white as snow, its height exceeding that of any human. Findings from as recent as 2017 suggest that the Yeti may not be so mythical after all. Samples from history that people claim came from a Yeti were all DNA tested. The results showed that 8 of the 9 samples belonged to an ancient bear, an unknown species that is closely related to the grizzly bear and the polar bear. So maybe the old civilizations of the Himalayas weren't making up stories. They likely witnessed the abominable snowman walking on the snowy earth. It just wasn't the ape-human monster they thought it was. Thank you for watching. If you liked our video, give us a thumbs up. For more videos from us, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so that you don't miss an upload.